If the family is to be the true incubator of a generation of peace and equity, then passing on those qualities from parent to child is one of the fundamental goals of parenthood. The Millers have worked hard to empower their children with the capacities to make choices based on positive values and to believe that they can accomplish all that they set out to do.
I have memories of sitting around the dinner table and my father kind of going around to all of the children and asking our views on different subjects of the world.
You know, I'll never forget when Layli went to the Soviet Union for 6 weeks, and it was a program called Partners for Peace. And I remember when I went and picked her up at the airport, and I remember the moment we walked back into our house, she just kind of looked around and said, "Dad, you don't know how lucky we are." And I said, "Yes." You know, it was worth it. And I think that's perspective, and I think that's just something we as parents have a responsibility to do, is to give our children perspective. Otherwise, they live in an unreal world.
My mother is very active in the community and is very involved herself in issues of civil rights, working on issues of justice. And I think that that example was something that was very inspiring to me.
I know my husband and I ask ourselves, how did we translate our values of service to our children? And it seems that Layli really has adopted those values in a way that perhaps she learned at a very early age. So I think she felt like if she persevered and if she worked hard and if she put her high ideals into practice, that anything could happen, that there in fact could be justice.
Layli now practices law in Washington, D.C. As a 23-year-old law student, she took on a case that would become one of the most important U.S. legal cases in recent years regarding women's rights. It began on the other side of the world, in the small country of Togo. Here, many young women, like Fauzia Kazinja, traditionally are forced to undergo ritual circumcision as a rite of passage into womanhood. This ritual is also known as female genital mutilation, or FGM. Just hours before her ritual, family members helped Fauzia flee from Togo. She came to the U.S. to ask for asylum and protection from the ritual, which had killed her aunt and several friends. But instead of finding refuge, she was arrested and placed in detention. It would be almost 8 harsh months in maximum security before 17-year-old Fauzia would get her first asylum hearing.
My commitment to Fauzia, to the issue of female gemulation, to women's rights in general, really stems from my belief as a Baha'i in the importance of the equality of women and men.
Yeah, you feel that if there is an injustice happening in Cambodia, it's happening to your family. And I think that this is one of the reasons why we felt so committed to support Layli in her work with the female genital mutilation.
The Board of Immigration Appeals, the highest immigration appellate tribunal, agreed to hear Fauzia's case.
Eventually, they rendered a decision which was favorable to Fauzia. It granted her asylum because of female genital mutilation, and it established a national legal precedent with regard to women being able to receive asylum on account of female genital mutilation.
Upon her release from prison, Fauzia lived for a short time with Layli's family.
The mother-in-law said, "This is your room." I said, "My room? Oh my God, I have a whole room to myself." And she said, "This is your bathroom." I went there just like heaven. I said, "Oh my God." So I started jumping on the bed. I said, "Oh my God." I told Layli, "Please, if this is a dream, don't you wake me up." I told her, and she said, "Oh, it's not a dream, don't worry."
Layli used her proceeds from a book on the case to found the Tahirih Justice Center, which helps women who face human rights abuses.
None of us know what our children are going to end up doing. You know, what career path they're going to end up doing. They'll probably have several careers these days. But what's important is we develop their capacities, their capacity to think, their capacity to take action, their capacity to make value-based choices and decisions. If we develop those capacities, whether girl or boy, man or woman, they will accomplish. They will accomplish to the best of their capacity, and that's all we can pray for.
Humanity is like a bird, and the
Layli gave a talk here some months ago for International Women's Day, and a number of people from her school came, both the founder of her school and some of her teachers, and people in the Baha'i community who've known her for forever, you know, since she was a toddler. And one of them said to me that she wanted to come see how our daughter had turned out. Sort of taking ownership for her. And I said, that's absolutely right. I mean, she is our daughter. The community's daughter, absolutely.
Baha'is believe that all of the world's major religions have been stages in the continuing revelation of God's will and purpose for humanity, which has finally come of age. God's purpose in sending His prophets unto men is to liberate the children of men from the darkness of ignorance, guide them to the light of true understanding, and ensure the peace and tranquility of mankind. Educating children to have a high moral character and genuine appreciation for all people is of primary importance to Baha'is. Baha'i community life is characterized by a spirit of joy, reconciliation, and social action. Youth activities utilize the fine arts and dramatic performances to foster a better understanding of racial unity and the importance of community service. A distinction of the Baha'i faith from traditional religion is the absence of professional clergy. Each person is encouraged to investigate truth independently and not to rely solely on human intermediaries. The administrative affairs of a Baha'i community are conducted by a body of 9 members called the Spiritual Assembly. They are elected annually by community members 21 years or older. Spiritual Assembly members are primarily responsible for community activities, but do not regulate the process of individual belief and worship. The nature of the assembly is that of service to the community in a loving and non-authoritarian manner. Baha'is gather regularly for worship, reflection on the Holy Scriptures, and prayer. Beyond devotional gatherings, worship consists of an attitude toward God reflected in life. Conforming one's life to serve humanity is one example of putting that spirituality within each of us to work. All participate equally in meetings held to discuss ways to be of service to the community at large. Decisions are arrived at through a consensus-building process designed to maintain unity and ensure the participation of diverse voices.